Thank you, everybody. Good evening again. My name is Ellen Glasser. I am standing in this evening for Maria Mark from Beaches Watch, who always does an exceptional job. So we want to thank Beaches Watch and their team for helping to educate our community. We'll stick to an hour tonight, and I know we know why you're here tonight. That's to talk about, hear about the height referendum in Jacksonville Beach. But before we start, I have a few announcements to make. And you can see them up on the screen, and for those who are streaming this, they can see it at home. You can watch these meeting videos at the link that's up there, but you can always go to Beaches Watch to find that link. There are opportunities to join Beaches Watch. The membership is $15 for individuals, $20 for families, and $5 for students. Those memberships are valid from January through December. You can renew through the online link at the Beaches Watch website. So tonight I would like to recognize our elected officials who are with us tonight. From Atlantic Beach, we have Mayor Curtis Ford. And also with Atlantic Beach, we have the Deputy City Manager, Kevin Hogenkamp. Where are you, Kevin? Just stand up. Thanks. So, do we have anybody from Neptune Beach tonight? So with Jax Beach, we obviously have Mayor Chris Hoffman, who is one of the panelists tonight. So welcome, Mayor Hoffman. We also have, from the City Council there, we have Fernando Meza. Where are you? Back there in the back. We have Corey Nichols. Thanks, Corey. We have, is Dan Jansen in the room? I think he's expected to come. And then Greg Sutton. Welcome, and then of course Sandy Golding. Hey. Are there any of the executive staff from Jax Beach here tonight? Okay, and then we also are pleased to welcome Destiny Davis, who works in the office of our state representative, Keon Michael. Thank you for being here. On the agenda, on the calendar coming up, in Atlantic Beach, we have a town hall meeting on April 15th. That's a Saturday at the Gail Baker Center. We have the charter review process going on currently in Atlantic Beach, and the next committee meeting is April 26th at 6 p.m. We have the Jacksonville Beach Land Development Code Workshop. It's scheduled to be in April, but we don't have a set date at this point. And the topic is the Land Development Code and Zoning Districts. And if you would like to follow the legislative updates from the session that's going on in Tallahassee, please check out the website, Local Voices United. You can sign up for alerts and follow issues, particularly those related to home rule, that are always important to our municipalities. So, moving on, I'm in the right spot. We're now taking applications for high school seniors for the Fland Sharp Memorial Scholarship. The deadline is April 30th. So please check out that part of the Beaches Watch website and nominate a deserving senior for that award. We have a Jacksonville election that's coming up soon on May 16th. For Mayor of Jacksonville, we have Daniel Davis and Donna Deegan. For at-large Group 1, Charles Garrison and Chris Miller. And for property appraiser, Jason Fisher and Joyce Morgan. And those are going to be the elections that you will see on your ballot at the beaches. So in terms of the upcoming election, your last day to register to vote is April 17th. The last day to request a vote by mail ballot is May 6th. To request a vote by mail ballot, please go to the Duval Elections website in order to do so. Early voting will be from May 1st to May 14th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. right here at the Beaches Branch Library. And then Election Day will be May 16th of this year. So that date is very important in terms of what we are going to be talking about tonight. So save the date for the next meeting, May 3rd at 7 p.m. The topic will be the state of the St. Johns River, and we will be having the St. Johns River Keeper, Lisa Linneman and Jerry Pinto will speak to the group then. So without further ado, we're going to move on. And the way this is going to work tonight is we have 3 panelists. Each of them will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. And I'm hoping that Mayor Hoffman will set up the referendum itself so that everybody is on the same page in terms of what is going to be on the ballot. So after those 10-minute presentations, we'll have them come up here to the front, and then we will do question and answers. And I will, just take hands from the crowd in terms of questions. When we get close to the end, we'll wrap it up, and then I'll have a few announcements. So I would like to introduce Mayor Chris Hoffman from Jacksonville Beach, and she will be coming up now to do her presentation.
While we're doing the AV stuff, I do also want to recognize Art Graham, who is the chairman of our Community Redevelopment Agency, former Jacksonville Beach and Jacksonville City Councilman.
The mouse is not cooperating.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for being here to learn more about this important issue. I want to thank Beaches Watch, as always, for giving us the opportunity to discuss and share information and have some Q&As and give and take among the panelists today. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about how to approach this presentation, and my first instinct is to go with a historical perspective and a look back at the many rounds of redevelopment of Jacksonville Beach and Jacksonville Beach's downtown. I also thought a lot about my own personal feelings on this issue and how they've evolved and changed over my time in public service, but I decided just to go ahead and go straight to business, to keep it a little bit brief, but also to give time for the other panelists and some Q&A, and I know we have the timekeeper right here. So I'm going to start off by saying, first of all, I'm here as Chris Hoffman. This isn't a position of the Jacksonville Beach City Council. This is something that the council voted to approve and put on the ballot, so that will be, it is now up to the voters, and that vote will be on May 16th. So I'm here to speak to you from my own perspective and give you some background on kind of how we got to where we are. So this is the ballot language as it's going to be on the ballot for May 16th. Shall the Jacksonville Beach Charter be amended to allow the redevelopment of a city-owned property bounded by 1st Street North, 2nd Street North, Latham Plaza, and 111 Beach Boulevard, exempting the property from the 35 feet height limit to allow maximum building height of 55 feet for a mixed-use redevelopment with a parking structure. This is what the change to the charter would be if it were to pass. So you can see that the height limit is still there as it currently exists today, and the underlined portion would be the addition to the charter, again reiterating that piece of property that would basically be allowed the additional 20 feet of height. And this is where that property is. So right there in the middle where it says Jacksonville Beach paid public parking. It's bounded by the Four Points Sheraton, by Latham Plaza, the back of Carrabba's, and then Sneakers and the parking lot that is next to Sneakers. So it's a big piece of property kind of towards the south end of our downtown area. And this is kind of the most recent series of events that got us to where we are today. So when our new city manager came on a few years ago, one of the things he wanted to do was host visioning meetings. He had several meetings with citizens, business owners, property owners specifically to downtown, and a few themes emerged. And some of the themes with our downtown were a desire for walkability, safety, and a downtown that residents want to go to and that they feel like is for them. Subsequent to that, we had a charter review, and this was the first time we had done a comprehensive charter review in decades. So there was a lot of work, and I spoke here a few months ago to talk about the 16 amendments that we had on the 2022 ballot. And those were, some were pretty basic cleanup issues. Unfortunately, the one that made the mayor's section gender neutral did not pass. So my colleagues are really enjoying calling me Mr. Mayor. So that's great. But once the time has passed, we'll put the two that failed, at least that one, we'll put that back on the ballot and give it another go. But there were two bigger issues that were really sticky that we never really could, that we were just kind of put in a parking lot. We had subsequent meetings on them. One of them was that our quota licenses for alcohol are based on the 1950 census, and the other was height. And those were two that we wanted to spend a little more time talking about. So subsequent to that, we had several workshops on a height incentive program, and this was an incentive program that would have had certain standards in place that if you wanted to redevelop your property and you met these standards, that we might be able to give you a height bonus. This was a really complicated plan. It was going to take a lot of work to get to the point where we would know 100% of what it was going to be before we went to the voters. So again, a little more introspection on that one, coupled with the fact that the Community Redevelopment Agency is now working on what you see as number 10 there, which is redeveloping the existing parking lot in the civic corridor. So that's the parking lot that we're talking about now. So this plan was put out in 2007. Is Ken Marsh here? So Ken always reminds us about this vision plan, and I think that the dot there is like 3 to 4 years. So if you can do the math, 2007 plus 3 to 4 years, and here we are, finally talking about redeveloping this lot. And it was actually Ken, again, who said instead of this broad sweeping height incentive plan for the whole downtown area, why don't you focus on one piece of property? His reference was to the fact that we were talking about doing a parking garage at 2nd Street and 4th Avenue North, but it really seemed to fit in this redevelopment project that if city property, if our community redevelopment agency is redeveloping it, then maybe this is a good opportunity to see about a height bonus for that redevelopment plan. The Community Redevelopment Agency did a few other things. One of them was a market study on Latham Plaza, and this is actually a clip from their annual report. So they had a market analysis with GAI consultants on the parking lot to understand the needs of the public or the potential public-private partnership development on site. And they found that retail and office use were going to be the two highest needs for our downtown area for redeveloping that parking area. So what the charter amendment does do, it allows one specific property to utilize up to an additional 20 feet of height. It gives us some flexibility of design and maximizing the space. There will be a parking garage, a structured parking incorporated into this redevelopment, but it also, to me, what would be most exciting is it gives us an opportunity for rooftop and ground floor activation, more of an opportunity beyond what 35 feet would be able to give us. It also addresses many issues from the workshops that we held. Some of the residents came out, they didn't want their views blocked by a taller building. There is no residential anywhere near this piece of property. As you remember, it's Latham Plaza on one side, a much taller hotel on the other side, and then commercial on the other two sides there. Shadows on the beach, disrupting the use and enjoyment of the actual coastline. It was also a criticism that this would be a gift to developers, and the reason that I would contend that it's not is because this is a public-private partnership on land owned by the City of Jacksonville Beach, and that the CRA will be managing the process in terms of the RFQ, so the request for qualifications process. We can make this look like what we want it to look like, and we don't even know what developers will even apply to be interested in entering into a public-private partnership with us. So the Community Redevelopment Agency and the Council will have oversight of that process. What it does not do is remove the height limit from the charter. The height limit will be there with those additional underlined sentences that I showed you earlier on. So just to conclude, and these were some pictures that we had in our, I know, this is not what we're talking about. I do not want this. Nobody wants this. I don't know anyone who does want this. But this is what, these are all buildings in Jacksonville Beach right now. This is what I want. So the top left is from St. Pete, the top right is Pure Point, then the bottom left is La Playa. Both of those are in Jacksonville Beach, and then rendering down at the bottom right. So these are, especially the two top left and the bottom right, show your ground floor activation, your rooftop restaurant, unique architecture, and just really what could be a really beautiful opportunity to redevelop and to maximize the space that we have right now in Latham Plaza, which is currently surface level parking. I don't want to get too far into it, but I'll say Community Redevelopment Agency is working on redesigning Latham Plaza. So the whole idea is that these two properties, two projects, would play off of each other and be a benefit to each other to have this beautiful green space that's active not just during Spring in the Blues or during special events, but it's active all the time because it's bordered by an active property. And something that I've said all along is that I want our downtown to be as active at 10 a.m. as it is at 10 p.m. And I think that a project like this, where we have some flexibility and some creativity, is going to be a great way to help get us there. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Mayor Hoffman. Let me queue up the next one. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Michelle Tipton, who's representing Better Beach 3225.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Tipton, and I am here representing Better Beaches 32250. We formed March 2023 to remedy problems encountered by our representative government. Better Beach 32250 is a coordinated effort of concerned citizens determined to preserve neighborhoods in the Central Business District from City Council indifference, developer overreach, circumvention of the height ordinance, and other unfavorable actions, while recharging the quality of our experience in Jacksonville Beach for residents, beaches owners, and visitors. A vote for this amendment would give as few as 4 people on the City Council the right to decide how this property is developed. Currently, there are no specific design elements identified for this project, no details on what incentives will be offered, yet citizens are being asked to change the charter without these specifics. In recent months, citizens have seen firsthand, despite showing up in large numbers, emailing, calling, this City Council is indifferent to citizens' interests. Any promise of city input is suspect. This charter amendment is possibly the first step in a multi-step plan to circumvent the height protection we have enjoyed for the past 2 decades. The same evening that City Council advanced this charter amendment, they tabled another ordinance, 2023-8193. That would have lifted the height restriction for the entire Central Business District. That ordinance is essentially waiting in the wings. In this charter amendment, if this charter amendment is passed, it may open the door for lawsuits of property owners in Jacksonville Beach who want the same rights that the City of Jacksonville Beach is granting themselves. The city parcel that this amendment seeks to raise the height on the parcel that this amendment seeks to raise the height protection for this has been described by the city manager, Stephanopoulos, as a showcase for would-be developers in Jacksonville Beach. To us, a showcase indicates that there is more of the same to come. Better Beach 32250 believes that we must resist the narrative that increased height is essential to the redevelopment of our city. Height does not equal success and safety, as Mayor Hoffman has stated in previous meetings. Growth is coming and change is inevitable. Better Beach 3250 welcomes progress. We define it differently than some of the developers and most of the city council members would. We want smart growth in this low-rise business beach community that respects everyone's right to have open vistas and sun instead of shadows on the beach each afternoon. There are many smart ways to legislate going forward, but this chart amendment is not an example of that. Unbridled growth in nature is lethal. The 35-foot height limit was a protection embraced by citizens against unbridled growth. Property owners have rights that should be respected. These rights are to develop balanced, with concerns listened to by the residents. Anyone who purchased property in Jacksonville Beach in the last 20 years knew of the 35-foot height limit. We are surrounded by examples of quality projects within a 35-foot height. If you take a car ride or a bike ride or a walk a couple miles north, you find a thriving, family-friendly central business district in Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach Town Center. They are flourishing within their 35-foot height amendment, or 35 height protection. Right here in Jacksonville Beach, we have recent properties of Oku and Oaxaca that are located in the central business district. They serve as evidence that properties can successfully be developed within 35 feet, and investors are obviously willing to do so. Again, height is not determined by safety and success. We can do this within the 35-foot height amendment. There was a wonderful plan drawn up for our city in 2007 by Gladding, Jackson, Kirchner, and Anglin. The slide shows the city lot adjacent to Latham Plaza, vibrantly developed within the 35-foot height. Great places exist and continue to be developed within the 35-foot standard, and we're asking Jacksonville Beach voters to keep protecting our community. As you all are sitting here today, I'm hoping you're asking yourself what you can do. The numbers of people that have shown up to the city council meetings in recent months is standing room only. And myself being there, I had not heard a single citizen in favor of this change. Not a single person. What can you do to help defeat this charter amendment? First of all, you can go to, on the bottom right, you can see www.betterbeach32250.com. We will keep updates as to what we're doing as we approach this vote. You can sign up to be a volunteer. And no, you can sign up for 30 minutes of help. You can sign up to help 2 hours every day up until this vote. As much or as little as you are able to give, we would greatly appreciate your help. Starting next week, we will be doing door-to-door canvassing to register voters. Many hands can make this work very light, and I'm asking each and every one of you to consider donating a little bit of time that fits within your day to help this. Opening of the beaches is May 30th. We have signed up to put together a float. So anybody interested in helping with, April 30th, thank you very much. I see some shocked eyes, April 30th. If you'd like to help design a float, if you'd like to help with the group putting it together, or if you'd like to just help on April 30th, walking along, handing out pamphlets, giving information. Our goal is to help inform the Jacksonville Beach residents of this vote. 20 years ago, over 70% of our residents voted to protect our beaches. I personally believe that it's still that number, if not stronger. Our goal, and what we'd like to have you help do, is to inform your family and friends and neighbors. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's text, whatever you can do to bring to people's attention that this is going to be on the ballot. May 16th is coming very soon, and it's important for the residents of Jacksonville Beach to realize how important this is and what it means to our future. You can see the QR code down here on the bottom. You can scan it, and it can bring up the additional information. Our goal is to get the word and the information and to have registered voters be informed on May 16th. Help preserve our beautiful beaches, and I strongly urge you to vote no on the Charter Amendment on May 16th. Thank you for your time.
Cue up the final presentation with our third panelist tonight. I'm going to come on up. So can you all see our you see it? Okay, at this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Georgette Dumont. She's a former city council member for Jacksonville Beach, and she's going to speak to us about Protect the Beach Life Pact. Dr. Dumont.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you all for being here tonight. I love seeing people participate in their community and the future of their community, so I do thank you profusely for that. Mayor Hoffman and Ms. Tipton did a great job with laying out the issues on this, the pros and cons on this specific issue. I want to go into a little bit about Protect the Beach Life and what we are trying to do and how we relate to Better Beach 32250. So Protect the Beach Life's vision is, our vision is that we have a resident-focused city that engages citizens in order to shape our future. Mayor Hoffman noted that we have had visioning sessions and a strategic plan and all of that, and we have. And we took in information. I was at every single one of those focus groups, and never once did a resident who wasn't a business owner or a property owner say that they wanted the height increased. They said that they wanted activation. They said that they wanted a vibrant downtown. And my concern is that our current elected officials have taken that to mean that it has to be height. So if you have height as a, this is a policy solution in search of a problem. That's what we would say in academia. You know, I have the solution, increase the height, and I'm looking for a problem. And it used to be that people were not developing downtown, but now people were developing downtown. So then we have to switch it around to make it active, vibrant. And oh, we got this height, and let's try that. And I think that that is, it's too superficial, and it diminishes the input that you all have in our community. We have a lot of minds here, we have a lot of input, and together we can really create a vibrant downtown and what we are willing to see downtown. So my mission the mission of Protect the Beach Life is to promote participatory government in Jax Beach. We had the visioning meetings that I told you about. We had those focus groups, and then after that, council. This back when I was on council, we met for a long time on developing the charter revisions and all of that. And we got you a new updated, new and improved charter, with the exception of not making the mayor, Ms. Mayor. Whoops. But work on that next time. Work on that. But like Mayor Hoffman said, that there were two sticky issues: alcohol and height. And when we look at that, we need to make sure that we move forward very strategically. So what I would say is, Protect the Beach Life is not necessarily against increased height, but it should not be decided by board individuals. Any increased height needs to be a vibrant community conversation as to what do you see in the downtown area? What would be okay for you? What's off limits to you as well? We haven't had that conversation. We did have 2 open houses height limit, but they were not workshops. They were more of a selling point as to why you should support 55 feet, not what do you, okay, we agree that we want an active, vibrant downtown. Do we agree on that?
Right.
All right, so if we want that, how can we achieve that? So we know what the developers need and what makes financial sense for them, and we know what we see in our minds as being an active, vibrant downtown and the structures that are there. How do we meld them together to get to a place that we can move forward together? This is not the solution, the 55 feet in that one lot. If we look at that one lot, it's a good sized lot, and we can do a lot with it, but we don't know what it is that they're going to do. The mayor put up some pictures. Ms. Tipton noted that there's no details on it. If we approve 55 feet for this one lot, technically we can get a 55-foot wall on all sides, because in the downtown district, they have 0 setbacks. So you don't have to have any a lot setback like we have to have with our side yards, front yards, and rear yards. It could be right up to the sidewalk. Is that what they want? I don't think so. I truly don't think so. And I believe that those individuals on council who are pushing for this really have the best intentions for our city. I don't begrudge them whatsoever. However, for us to be able to say that all right, you can go up to 55 feet here, we don't have enough detail as to what's in their heads and what's in our heads. And then it came across, and then it was noted that since this is an RFP and it has to go through the CRA and then through the Planning Commission, there's going to be plenty of public input. We've seen how plenty of public input has worked for the last couple of months. Moreover, there's plenty of public input, but there's no public permission. So it's just, we can say things, but then they can still do what they want once we give them the permission. So I would ask, Protect the Beach Life asks, that you vote this down, you ask your neighbors to vote this down, and force council to come back and work with us to decide what we want our downtown to look like. It might not be 35 feet. It might be more than that. It might be some kind of architectural flourishes to that would work better for our community. But just a plain, right across the board, 55, I find it short-sighted on council. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about this since we were doing the charter revision. And then our first open house for the height was last January. And then all of a sudden, we have 8 weeks between it getting passed by council and you to vote on it. why hasn't this been a priority for council for this past year? If it was that important that we move on it that quickly because it's this one lot and we can make decisions on it and we want to move forward on it, if that's the intention and that's how it's always been, why have we waited so long to make this a priority?
Corruption.
It's not corruption. It's totally not corruption. I just think it was poor planning and a lack of focus on this one issue. So there are other things going on within the city. Yes, it's been busy, and I know it's been busy, but when the city has all these things on its plate, it is the council and specifically the mayor that dictates which things take priority on the agendas. And if this was the priority, it was flopped because we waited a year to push this forward and for this 1 8-week period. Even if you go back to the whole downtown area, we still waited too long to bring that forward. So I implore you all to vote no. Please ask all your neighbors to vote no. Pay attention to the mailers and share them. Vote no on this. And when you vote no, this lot already has the RFP. It's ready to go. It's just waiting to see if it's going to be 35 feet or 55 feet. So something is going to happen there regardless. Make this be 35 feet and let's force council to work with us to decide what we visually see our downtown being in the future. Don't just throw out a number and for expediency's sake, change the height limit for this one property. That's it. Thank you.
Can you hear pretty well back there, everybody? Yep. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to invite our 3 panelists to come up and have a seat, and then I'll explain how this is going to work while I exit out of this.
Test. Oh. Got it.
Okay, so I've projected on the screen what the proposed charter change is and what the question on the ballot will be, just so you have it as a point of reference. I would also like to say that we've been very fortunate to have our 3 panelists agree to come tonight, so we're going to operate under the principles of respect in this chamber. If you have something that's fact-based or a question that's reasonable, we welcome that, and that's why we're here. But anything beyond that, we really discourage. So with that in mind, just by a show of hands, how many of you have questions? Okay, all right, what we're going to do is, if you have a question and you want to direct it to one person in particular, do that, or then if you don't have somebody in particular, we'll throw it to the panel and see who'd like to respond. So, with that in mind, please raise your hand if you have a question and I'll bring you the microphone. Where's the lady I told I was gonna, oh, you. Oh, yeah.
You.
Is this working?
What?
Yeah, you got to go close.
My question may be somewhat new.
Can you guys hear it?
No.
Kiss the mic.
I say my question may be somewhat new, but I'm going to ask it nevertheless to you because we're in front of a large group of people and we public. It may be mostly aptly directed to the mayor, but I say my question may most aptly be directed to the mayor, but I'll take answers from anybody who has them on the panel. What share of the cost of building this project will be borne by our private partner? Who will our private partner be? And considering that the parking spaces for Sneakers Bar will be gone, what number or percentage of parking spaces in this garage will be dedicated to public use?
You have more questions? We're gonna, okay, next
So that's a great question, and I will start off by saying that sneakers parking is private property. So this does not impact sneakers or the parking lot behind sneakers. This is the middle parking lot that is city property. So again, we have not done a public-private partnership in Jacksonville Beach in quite some time. And in fact, the area that we're talking about, the redevelopment of the Seawalk, Pavilion, City Hall, that whole area, I think that was done in the mid to late 90s. And that was the last time we endeavored to do a public-private partnership. So as Dr. Dumont mentioned, the Community Redevelopment Agency is putting out a request for qualifications in May, and then there's a whole negotiation that will go on that will determine what the project looks like, what it's comprised of, the specific details as far as cost, is it a land lease, is it, all of those details would come from that. So again, this answers the question of, does that RFQ go out with 35 feet or 55 feet? So that's what we're trying to answer now, because that'll make, and that's part of the timing of this, is that's already planned to go out in May. It's an imminent project that the CRA has been working on. And I will say, in my time on council since 2012, it's been painful to watch our downtown not make bigger strides in becoming the downtown that I think we all know it can be. But in the past couple of years, we hired a community redevelopment project manager. Our CRA is doing regular workshops and meetings, and they're really working, and Ken reminds us about the vision plan a lot, and they're really working to start working through that list. We did a big, with the south end with Park, we pushed up the redoing of Sunshine Park, and they're really working again on working through those projects in our downtown area. So that will all come through in the proposal, in the public-private partnership project.
Because they haven't put out.
And so the mayor's correct, those details will be worked out in any kind of a contract. They are not up for, we don't know what they would be right now. So we can't say what they would be. And that's regardless, that depends, that's the same whether it's going to be 35 feet or 55 feet. So at 35 feet, it still would be a public-private partnership, it would just be 20 feet shorter. One thing I want you to think about, though, is with it being a mixed-use development, on that ground floor, you're going to have businesses and shops, and that's the goal, is to have things that we're going to want to do. And that's going to be on top of the current parking. And so those shops are going to also need parking. And that parking would take place in the building, as well as the regular parking that we already use that for.
What about
handicap?
No questions in between, sorry.
So I want you to think about those kinds of things. These are details that we need to get together as a community to really hash out. We don't have the details that's needed for us to approve a 55-foot height at this time. We need to work together to decide what it is that we envision there.
Better Beach 32250 agrees with not wanting this to be rushed, to vote this charter amendment down and to allow a more planned, community discussed and involved direction prior to this being rushed through in the next couple of weeks and then us finding out after the fact. Community input has not had an impact on the city council the last couple of months. And if they're not listening to us now after they get this, and if it were approved, we would not have the input that we'd like to.
Thanks, ladies. So if there are follow-up questions for this, we're just trying to keep it orderly so we can do this. Did you have a follow-up question, Mayor?
I was just wondering what they were going to do for handicap parking.
The question is, who's the question to? How is handicap
Abide
parking?
by the law that dictates how much and where the handicap park is.
Okay, questions? Yes, ma'am.
Follow-up question.
Okay, let me get the microphone up there. Right up to your mouth.
My name's Brenda Sheila.
I have a question about, because of the parking garage that you're going to my building, which is now 55 feet, as opposed to 35 feet. What impact will that have on the on the traffic in that area? Because we have that roundabout, and Second Avenue is always crowded, and Beach Boulevard is always crowded, First Street is always crowded. So what is the impact that would have on the traffic in the area?
Is that for the mayor? Who can answer that? Mayor.
So the question was about traffic and what is the impact that the traffic, or that the increased parking would have on that area. It's not necessarily a 55-foot parking garage. It's a mixed-use development that would incorporate a structured parking. So I have seen high-rise parking garage as a phrase that's been out there. That's not what I'm envisioning. Again, I can't speak for my council, although one of them is raising his hand. Maybe we can go to him for a follow-up. One of the reasons that I like this spot, and we have been talking about a parking garage downtown for as long as I've been on council, is that it is towards the south end of town. If you are coming up Beach Boulevard, it's right there. So it's going to be a lot easier to access. And again, that's whether it's 35 feet or 55 feet. To me, this is a good location. You can park, your easy access to restaurants, to the plaza, what have you, and it will be an increase of parking, has to be, because we need to make up for the lost parking that will be covered up, as well as adding parking, as Dr. Dumont mentioned, to support the shops and restaurants that are coming there. So to me, where it's located is right near the main artery that people are using to get to and from that area. So that's a very good place to me to put a parking garage, to cut down on the trips of people going in and out. I feel like you want that.
Thank you. Mayor Hoffman just noted something that I want to repeat, not what I am envisioning. That's not something you vote on. I agree, that's not what I envision. I'm sure that's not what you envision. But we can't decide that, we can't ensure that that's what's not going to happen if we do the 55. A month or two ago, there was also discussion where the City Council charged the CRA to look deeper into putting a parking garage on 2nd Street and 4th Avenue North. Think about that. Right now readjust, there's a light there and all that. I would say that that would probably be a better place for it than the one, than this property for a parking garage or a parking structure. Right off 3rd Street, not as embedded within that area. For the handicap parking, there are very strict rules that need to be followed. You have a certain amount of handicap places and where they are. So that will be addressed. So don't worry about that. Right?
So I'm going to go back here to Corey Nichols on the council. That's actually a good idea. I'll give you a chance to say something. Well, no, we'll wait.
She answered the question. The original question was about the number of parking, and then it was going to be equal or more. That was the only thing that I was going to point out.
I just wanted to get some clarification about 2 weeks ago at the council meeting when the agenda item was brought up. And I thought I heard the mayor say that if it is voted down the next day or very soon thereafter, the property would be sold and it would be developed. Is that in a hurry? No. Is it planned to be sold right away? No. Or developed immediately?
The RFQ for the redevelopment of the parking lot is on deck to happen anyway from the Community Redevelopment Agency, but that is the city's property. There are no plans to sell that, but to redevelop it as a public-private partnership is what the plan is. And they've already been working on that. There's an RFQ going. So the day after the vote, it either goes out at 35 feet or 55 feet, up to 55 feet. And it doesn't have to go all the way to 55 feet, but that gives us the flexibility, again, an extra level of parking, a rooftop, restaurant, whatever, that gives us that extra flexibility there, so if it goes out 55 feet.
Hey, as Chris Hoffman, and not the mayor, in your opinion, why do you think this isn't happening in Atlantic Beach, but it's okay for Jacksonville Beach?
Great.
Yeah.
Those are apples and oranges comparisons, and we hear that a lot. Atlantic Beach is a lovely community. But their downtown is much smaller, and even combined with Neptune Beach, it's much smaller than our area is. I mean, look at the amount of just surface level parking lots that we have in Jacksonville Beach. That you don't see that at the town center. So I think we're talking about apples and oranges. Each of the other communities face their fair share of challenges. To me, I see our downtown as an opportunity as the town center does get more congested and there's some redevelopment coming, at least in the other city, that we have an opportunity to, again, engage people into our downtown, not just after 10 p.m., but all day long, and we are starting to see that, and I think we have an opportunity now, again, with this piece of redevelopment and a public-private partnership, to really do what we want with the property, and that's something, if you're a property owner or developer downtown, there's so much that you can do with it, but we don't have a lot of input on what that is. So this height incentive and with the additional height and the fact that it's our property means we have the entire control of what it is. Where if we just leave it at 35 feet and say you're bound by this, I don't know if Sunny's in the room, but no offense, but the Element Hotel is what that looks like. So if we have a little bit of flexibility and opportunity to redevelop a piece of property the way we want to, we have the opportunity to make something really special. And it is a time-sensitive opportunity. It is something that the Community Redevelopment Agency is working on as we speak.
And she brought up a great point with the element. I was on the planning commission when we approved the element, and I know that there were people in the room who did not like the design of the element. It wasn't necessarily the height. What was locking them in was the parking requirement. And it's easier to adjust the parking requirement in Jacksonville Beach than it is to adjust the height. So I would propose that as the LDC gets changed, we look at what the height requirement is and what the parking requirement is for each property and how that can be adjusted so that people will be able to develop their properties down there into something that is that's acceptable to the community. Again, it was height for the element. It was not height, it was parking, and that's one that gets thrown out. Everything's going to look like the element. It was the parking that really hemmed them in, so don't get confused on that. So there are two issues downtown. One is, according to the mayor, the height. The other one is parking. To go back to some of what she said, that the council has a chance right now, the city-owned property, to dictate what is going to go there. That is 4 people on council will have the opportunity to dictate what is going to go there. That's not you. They are asking you, to let them decide what is going to go there up to 55 feet. If you've been to any of the council meetings for the last 2 months, you know that they have not been listening to what it is that you want.
Exactly.
They've been doing what they want.
I feel like we have a lot of questions, so I'm gonna let Michelle.
I've raised my hand 8 times. All I want to do is ask my question.
I would like to respond. I heard multiple times, we, and it was referring to the city council and the mayor. And I'd like to really pause and ask the city council and ask the mayor to consider we the people that voted them into those positions.
Yes.
We stood there night after night at city council meetings. Every single person had valid concerns in regards to not increasing this height amendment. 70% 20 years ago voted this down. And whether it takes a moratorium on building until they figure out what they're doing with the LDC so that it's what the people of this community want, there needs to be a pause before these are moving forward. Thank you.
We don't have much time left, and I'm trying to get to as many of you as I can.
Don't have much time. Okay, that's fine with me. Just give me the microphone.
Should I give him the
Thank you, folks. I live on 11th Avenue South. Lived here for 16 years. I moved here from Atlanta because I wanted to get out of congestion, go live at the beach, and have a wonderful life. In the 16 years, the traffic has already quadrupled. The development has definitely doubled. We have about exhausted every square inch of empty property in South Jackson Beach. Now, the question is, I would like to poll the city council members and the mayor and get a frank, direct answer as to why you support this expansion, giving in to developers that can't even tell us what they're going to develop. And then we have 3 other parcels of land down there. What's going to come next after that? And we just approved 3 new hotels and 2 restaurants that all require more parking than the facilities can provide that they own. So what we act like we're going to the Kentucky Derby here. We're not in a race. We could take 3 more years to do this. Let us pause and get a plan, a master plan for what all the people like. And if everybody wants it to be done, fine. If they don't, fine. We're not going to a horse race. We need accountability from the council.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hold your applause, please. Who else has a question? I'm not doing a poll of the city council tonight. This is not the purpose of this meeting. Who else has a question?
None of them are
Here. Oh, yes.
There seems to be a complete disconnect between the citizens and the elected officials. When this happens, typically it's a recall election. Why is that not being considered?
That's not the topic for this evening. He asked about why is a recall election not being considered. I mean, do we want to spend time on that? It's not related. All right.
I'll just ask this to Mayor Hoffman. So my question for you is, regardless of how things go on the 16th, is there anything holding the city back from putting out an RFQ for both 35 and 55, figuring out what the options are under each height limit, and then revisiting that issue from there when we have options, when we have plans, when we have actual blueprints down?
Good job.
I don't see why not. And I think that when we, again, it's been 20 years since the voters have considered this issue, so I'm very interested. If I pulled this room, I would probably have a good idea. But I'm very interested in what the voters do have to say, since we have not visited this issue in almost 20 years. So I'll be very interested to see how that goes, and to, I don't know what the logistics would be as far as that goes, but I don't have any reason to say that we wouldn't be able to do that.
Can I just, other questions? I've asked you, I've gotten you once, you sir, okay.
If that is indeed the case, and you want to know what the voters, what the people want, why pick an election that's the lowest voter turnout?
Correct.
Yeah. Why not pick a general election where there's everybody?
I agree it's not ideal. However, I think with the opportunity with the redevelopment of this parking lot, the timing just made a lot of sense, because they were going to be putting out the RFQ in May anyway. So let's take a vote and see how the voters feel about it, and then we'll know 35 feet or 55 feet. I also want to take a quick minute to thank former Mayor Glasser. I think she's running around. She probably should have brought some running shoes today, but thank you. This is it's an issue that has a lot of emotion attached to it, a lot of questions, and I appreciate you subbing in for Maria, who's off enjoying some golf this week, but you're doing a great job.
She owes me.
She does, I agree.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to get one more question in from somebody who hasn't.
And quickly, it's Dr. Glasser. Just in case for those who didn't know, it's Dr. Glasser. When I was on council when this stuff was all going on, it was talked about that we would put this on the May election, the March or the May election. So yes, the decision was made not to do it on the general and to move it to the off year election.
Okay, I'm gonna grab you over here.
Having been to the meeting where this was passed through the electorate, and having seen really what I consider disregard for the public. Not one person at that meeting or that I've read has wanted this kind of development. I also saw one of the council people not even look up at all these people who spoke to the council. And I'm just wondering, this is for Mrs. Dumont. Ms. Dumont, your beach group, Safe Beach Life group, it doesn't sound like you're against a charter change. It sounds like you want to promote democracy, which you have a city government that has acted. Maybe it's a time to consider elections for the city government to change this thrust. But do you consider that height restriction that Beaches Watch put through 20 years ago something that that should be kept?
Dr. Dumont?
In its current form, it needs to be voted down. It needs to be voted down. With regard to, in the future, do we want to look at going above 35? That's not for me to decide. That is for the residents to decide and what it would look like if we were to go above 35. When you talked about the elections and promoting democracy, promoting democracy. All I can say is elections are a year and a half away. Please run. There will be 4 seats available, 3 council, 1 mayor, and if you are upset about what you've been seeing in this community, run for office. I will help you figure out which doors to knock on, how to put out the mailings and all that. That is part of what Promote the Beach Life is doing. So our first issue is, 1, defeat this height. The second is to make sure that the citizens are involved with the special events policy rewrite, which we haven't even started talking about yet, but it's coming. And it's talking about ticketed events for the downtown and selling out regular alcohol more than just beer and wine. Another one is the rewrite of the land development code. That matters a lot because that is what is happening in your own neighborhoods. And the 4th thing on our list of things that need to get done is to really make sure that we have representatives on council who are looking out for us and are listening to us and are not buried in their computers on the dais. That there's a level of respect. It takes a lot for some individuals to get up and talk in front of others. And anybody on a dais or anybody in a leadership position should respect that and respect the individuals who are putting themselves out and taking a night out of their lives to address their concerns with these strangers in front of a room of strangers. And so what I've seen for these last couple of months has broken my heart. And that is why this forum. If it wasn't for these last couple of months and how I've seen residents being treated, Protect the Beach Life wouldn't be around. But my heart has been broken. And when you say doctor, I'm a professor of government, of political science. That is why my heart has been broken.
Can I get, Kevin, can you keep it super short?
Yeah, I just want to make a
Because
comment.
I am not doing my job. We're already all overdue.
I've heard disconnect and disregard, and I am here as a resident of Jacksonville Beach, not as a city council member. And I know how hard it is to get to the meetings. I don't make it often. Now is your opportunity as a citizen of Jacksonville Beach to make a difference in this. Go to Better Beach 32250, sign up to volunteer, call your friends, reach out to people, whether it be social media, phone calls, or whatever. You can make a difference in this. You have the chance to do this, and I implore you to make the effort in the way that you can, whether it be a phone call or signing up to volunteer, because disregard and indifference is not acceptable. And we need for them to know that we are going to vote this down. Thank you.
All right, you just want to say something?
Yeah.
Question.
Just want to say to everybody, leadership is not an easy thing. When you are a leader, what you try to do is you get a bunch of people to do things or that you want or to make a decision.
That's leadership. And sometimes you have to make decisions that aren't good for the whole. I've been all over this state, from Pensacola all the way down the west coast up here to Fernandina. There are coastal communities that stay quality of life the way they want. We have that opportunity. We're going to get the vote on May 16th. You vote yes or no. You want it to stay quiet, that little North Florida community, you vote no. You want to start getting development, we can't serve two kings. We can't be a quiet little beach community, and we can't serve development, overdevelopment.
I love you, but I don't hear your questions. Thank you. Okay, so what I was saying is, I love you, but I didn't hear a question. So I want to say thank you all very much for just being here, listening, being respectful. It's not easy being in city government, as Kevin said, and as I'm sure members of council and the mayor understand. But thank you so much for being here. We want to thank the Neptune Beach Police Department.